welcome back to season 1, I'm calling it, of the Unlaced podcast. The first few episodes, I feel like it was a pilot season for us, so pretty pumped to be in the new studio. We're all decked out. Even more excited to bring this season now. We've always focused on humanising athletes and looking at the athlete, the in-depth perspectives that they have and what they do. And there's probably no better to speak to than today than Michael Pretty Boy Zerafa. It's a pleasure to have you here, man.
Mate, thanks for having me. It's an honour.
It's big, man. I've been a fan for a while. I've watched a lot of your fights, as I was just saying to you before we jumped on. But I probably want to get straight into it, man. Like 2 weeks to your fight, Anthony Mundine. I think the date's set now, March 13th.
March 13th, yeah, man. Looking forward to it. Like I said, it's a fight I've always wanted for 15 years in the making. So I'm excited. Like I said, I've had a 14-month layoff, and I'm hungry, man. I just want to get back in there and do what I was born to do and dance under those lights and, do it in front of a huge stacked crowd at Bendigo and, with it, the man himself, Anthony Mundine, who's dominated not only boxing, but, rugby as well. So he's a legend in the sport.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because we spoke of this and it's probably been well documented. I actually wanted to ask if it was truth or a myth, and you kind of did give me some light that it was truth. But you wrote to Anthony Mundine
Yeah.
when you were a young boy, pretty much saying, like, bro, I'm going to come out and I'm going to end your career.
Yeah, 13 years old. I remember, like I said, I was a big fan of Anthony Mundine, and he's probably where I am today because of his career. And, 13 on MySpace back then, I think, pretty sure it was. And I just said to him one day, I'm going to fight, I'm going to retire. And he replied saying, if you're looking to be beat, I'm the man to meet. And I left him on scene. And 15 years later, I get my opportunity. And he said, if Zerafa beats him, beats him, I will retire. So,
man,
I'm excited, man.
That's pretty surreal, bro.
Yeah. So, like I said, chase your dreams.
Yeah, man.
That will happen. Work hard.
See that come to reality. That's pretty crazy. And I've seen you guys talking some smack like no tomorrow, building up for this fight, which is crazy. But can you talk to us a little bit about your fight camp? Because it's probably been a bit unordinary with COVID.
Where do I start? It's been up and down, mixed emotions all around. This fight was meant to happen last year in April. But obviously because COVID kicked in and the fight never got cancelled. So it was always just postponed. And the body's just been pushing ever since April last year. So I've been in camp for, come March 13, 14 months. And it's been tough mentally. And obviously physically, I'm training twice a day, some days even 3, 6, 7 days a week. So I haven't had a day off.
That's crazy, man.
In legit 14 months. So I'm looking forward to it coming to an end. I've got one more week of pushing real hard, and then I'll start tapering down a little bit. And I'm hanging for that last week just to switch off.
So for you, because what's a sort of normal training week for you? Are you training every day, multiple times a day? Are you doing cardio in the ring, sparring? Like, is it a variety?
Yeah,
of
so
everything?
it's a variety of things, and I train for about 4 or 5 hours, sometimes 6 to 8 hours with recovery. I'll start at like say 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning. I'll get home at 7:30. It's an all day thing. Yeah, and it varies, from track work in the strength and conditioning gym, in the boxing gym.
Yeah.
And boxing is one of those sports where you got to do it all. It's not just like if you're a runner, you focus on running. If you're a basketballer, you're on the court. With boxing, you got to do everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And running, strength. Your craft. So it's been a long 14 months.
Man, I can imagine you must be craving this fight. As I said, it's the 13th of March. It's probably going to be one of the bigger fights in the country because we haven't seen too much fighting of late with COVID. But given where you're at in your career and obviously so highly ranked across the World Boxing Association, you've had an incredible pedigree of fighting. Like, why? A lot of people are wondering, including myself, like, why Anthony Mundine? Why did this fight make sense for you?
For me, it, like I said, it was a legacy fight for me. That's what my journey's always been about. Legacy. Money never inspired me. It was always about my name, Zerafa, going down in the history books. And Mundine is a fighter that's gone down in the history books. So knocking him out or beating him, getting his name on my resume is a huge deal. Yeah. And a lot of people are bagging this fight, but like I said to people, whether you hate me or love me, you're going to tune in and watch me. 100%. And I just fight whoever's in front of me. That's why I have a team. That's why I have a management team who organise all that for me. Whether it was Mundine standing in front of me March 13 or Floyd Mayweather, or anyone in the top 10, I have the same job as to get the W. And Mundine's, I've idolised him for so long. And I wanted Tim Tszyu, who, it's a huge fight. Zerafa Tszyu is the most talked about fight in Australian boxing and will happen. He, said that I'm too much of a dangerous fighter at the point of his career. And I understand that. But then we went to Jeff Horn in a trilogy fight. He didn't want that. He said Zerafa's too hard of a fight. So there was no one really left for me, and I've beaten everybody else. I'm not sitting at number one in Australia as a middleweight because I've beaten everyone in Australia. So I've cleaned up my backyard. Mundine was the only one that I hadn't ticked off the list, and I've always wanted to. And the fight even approached. How the fight approached was I was at a special guest venue with him, and he didn't like the fact that I was there. And
I'm pretty sure I've seen this.
Yeah,
There's footage of you like talking like you guys are interviewing all nice, and all of a sudden you just start going at each other.
So
It's
it
just
started
like
as a
it was
joke, a bit of
constant.
like back and forth banter, and then Mundine didn't like that I always had answers because they're calling me the next Anthony Mundine, and
Yeah.
he didn't like that. So he had a lot to say about it. Then we got face to face, and there was a few words said, and he reckons he could knock me out. I said, mate, let's do it. You know what I mean? So all on the line for me now. I've put it all on the line, and it's a big fight. And I truly believe I'll beat him. This is what I was born to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, how old is Mundine now?
So he's 44. But again,
44.
like people say he's 44 years old, he's past his best. But he's not a 44-year-old sitting at the pub. You know what I mean? He's an
No,
athlete. There's athletes all around the world,
Yeah.
that are still in peak condition. Floyd Mayweather. You got Pacquiao. You got Bernard
100%.
Hopkins, who didn't win a world title until he was 50.
100%.
So, and you can't beat his experience. He's been in there with the best. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you look at his resume, he's fought the best.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm taking this fight very, very seriously. And it's a must-win for me.
Yeah, it's a fight we're all waiting for, but it's crazy because when you look at your fighting career, you've had some tough fights.
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't been gifted, many W's, and if you have KO'd people, like it's been through skill. But when he says things like he doesn't know how to come through the trenches, like, do you just take that with a grain of salt, or is he doing that to stir the pot, or does he genuinely think
for
that?
me, I'm experienced now. I've been all around the world, and I know that he's already doubted himself. When he's coming up with lines like that, I mean, I've been in the trenches with some of the best in the world, if not bigger names than some of the people he's fought. Peter Quillen, 32-0 with 30 knockouts, the WBO world champion. I fought him at 23 years old, in his backyard for the world title. Cal Brooks, another big name, Arif Magomedov, the Russian world champion. I've been in there with some of the best. But look, I just brush it off. It doesn't mean that. If I was having my first or second fight, it'd probably get to me, but I'm 30 fights in now. I'm professional. I'm seasoned.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just, if you've got something to say about that, that's just, you're doubting yourself already before the fight's even approached.
100%.
So I just smile, and I've got a good smile, so I just keep smiling. And like I said, he'll find out March 13.
Bloody oath. That's where the name Pretty Boy originates from. Is that Smiler?
Well, no, it actually did. I tried to shake that name off, believe it or not.
Yeah?
They
It's
gave
stuck?
it to me. Yeah, mate. As an amateur, they just said he's got a very neat style. He's very pretty, the pretty boy, and every fight, it just wouldn't shake off.
I was wondering where that came from, whether you
mate,
just
definitely not
looked in
my
the mirror
looks.
and gone, like, oh, you know what?
I mean, I like it. I like it. It makes me feel a little bit good, but
Yeah.
definitely not for my looks. They gave it to me as an amateur for my style, and the ring announcer just, kept it, and I just can't shake it off, unfortunately.
No, fair, man. Fair. Now, given, as I said earlier, WBA have you as one of the, I think, top 10 middleweights in the world right now. Which is
number 7 in the world.
Number
yeah.
7, which is crazy high ranking. And given you probably haven't been as active as you wanted to be in the last 18 months because you can't really travel, you can't fight the people you want to fight. I guess your objective is to fight as many of the best fighters in the world and get up those rankings even more. What are your plans now for the year post Mundine without looking too far ahead to I guess achieve some of those goals?
Look, I want to fight anybody that's in front of me. I want to fight. That's why I'm in the sport. I want to be involved in the best fights, the best money fights, the best exposure fights. I'm in no rush. I'm only 28 years old, and like I said, I got a good team, and I just leave that up to them. I just fight whoever's in front of me, and Mundine's the first one. So my main focus is just on him.
Yeah.
And then after the fight, we reassess. And hopefully the zoo fight comes ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I don't look too far ahead.
Okay.
Plans can change.
Yeah, of course, man. And in these current times, it's like you don't even know.
Well, you never know,
if you can
even
travel,
with
right?
travel and stuff. But look, it works in our advantage because Australia is now not the hotspot. So, overseas, they're looking at putting shows here.
Yeah.
And getting some world-class overseas fighters fighting at, big shows here. It's huge.
Yeah.
And it gives us Aussies more of a chance fighting for world titles in our backyards, which we very rarely get the opportunity to do. Like I said, I've been overseas with the best and had to fight them all in their backyard. But for me, like I said, it's a good thing. It's a positive.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
So I guess boxing in this country now, I mean, we're craving big fights. The sport's getting bigger. We're getting some great fighters. You mentioned the rivalry with Tim Zhu, and it's quite obvious that, and I think he documented he had a 4-fight plan. He's fought 3 of them, and you were in that, but he hasn't fought you yet.
100%. Yeah, and that's why I always reiterate that, because for me, it's like I didn't even know who he was. You know what I mean? And you take away, and not in a disrespectful way, you know, but if his name was Tim Smith, they wouldn't hear him. You wouldn't hear anything about him. You know what I mean? And, you know, respectfully, his old man is a legend.
Yeah,
and,
great
you
fighter.
know, Tim can't help that. But in saying that, Tim's not at my level. And that's why I'm pushing for this fight, to prove that. You know what I mean? And he's calling himself the best. I'm calling myself the best. We're both ranked number 1 in our divisions. There's only one way to settle it. And may the best man win.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's why I crashed his fight in Sydney. And I basically said, you know, stop fighting welterweights. His team come out and said, you know, they're struggling to find fighters, but I'm here. I'm ready to fight. And they said off camera that you're too risky.
Yeah.
I said, so then keep my name out of your mouth. You know what I mean? So don't come up with a 4-5 plan and don't, you know what I mean? So, but look, you know, he's doing well for his career. I don't hate him. It's just a fight that needs to happen. You know, the real winner when that fight happens is Australian boxing.
100%.
So, and like I said, win, lose or draw, I just want to be involved in that.
You mentioned Tim Zhu and obviously the relation to his father, the great Costa Zhu. And speaking about those fights, Australian boxing is craving for that fight because it probably arguably is the biggest fight. I mean, Tim Zhu's got a great record. Your record's incredible for the amount of fights and the quality of fights you've had. And I've heard you say this before, styles make fights.
100%. And we're very similar.
Yeah.
You know, he's fighting guys that are tough, but boxing IQ is not the highest. And, you know, he's never fought anybody like me at my level. And similar style, but more experienced. You know, the bigger fighter, the stronger fighter. And that's why I say, like, you put it all down in paper, and I'm favourite. But none of that, like I was mentioning, you know, styles make fights, and he'll struggle with me. I know that for a fact, and he knows that for a fact. And, you know, he never admits it in front of camera. It's always off camera. So it's a shame. But, you know, we're getting very, very close because the virus is basically limiting us to fight overseas and whatnot. So after our fights now, there's only really each other.
There's not many options, right?
Our teams are back and forth in negotiations, and I'm praying. Like I said, I'm praying for that fight. And they're saying it's bigger than Mundine Green. So, yeah, that's a positive. You know, they reckon they'll sell out a stadium of 40,000 people.
100% that would. I mean, that is most definitely, in my eyes, in this country, the biggest fight, the two biggest names.
Well, they reckon it'll put Australian boxing, that is, back on the map.
Correct.
And, you know, I knocked out Jeff Horn, and that did great. But, you know, Horn isn't that huge in the sport. You know, he's done great things, taken nothing away from him. But, you know, a guy like Tim Zhu, Zerafa, myself, that's huge.
Yeah.
So I'm praying it does happen. But, like I said, can't look past Anthony Mundine, and just looking forward to the 13th.
I feel like Anthony Mundine, no matter what he says, he's going to see himself in you in the sense of like how you talk the talk and walk the walk, and that's very much what Mundine did. But I saw this with Tim Zhu when he finished his most recent fight. You just walked over, you're like, "Hey Zhu, like when are we doing this?"
Mate, he's got the same personality as a lemon. He's very vanilla, very plain, and look, yeah, he could be the best fighter, but it's a business. Boxing's a business, and you know, Mundine is a great example of that. You know, he went out there and not only he could fight, he could sell the fight. And, you know, that's why he made so much money and such a big name, because whether you loved him or hated him, like I mentioned, you're going to watch him. And he's still doing that to this day. And that's why he's lasted, 30, 40 years in the sport, because of how he is. And, you know, you got guys like Tim Zhu that pretty much got everything handed to him.
Yeah.
But again, it's not his fault, but you know, crack a joke or smile, mate. You know what I mean? So all he says
have
is,
some personality, brother.
You know, settle it with my hands. It's like, mate, you know what I mean? It's not all about punching on. So
Yeah.
it's about giving back. It's about, you know, inspiring others. And for me, it's each one teach one. And you know, I mean, there's more to boxing than just fighting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I'm learning that as I'm getting older. You know, it's
Yeah.
about giving back. And there's a lot of people that can't do the things I've been lucky enough to do, and it makes me, you know, think how lucky and grateful I am.
Do you reckon, and because I know you have that side to you, I've seen some of the stuff you do, and I know some people that are close to you, but do you reckon because of how you're potentially portrayed in the media when you're speaking up fights, people just see you as this kind of like villain character, and they don't sort of see the other side of...
Of course. And that's my role now. And unfortunately, you know, I'm just rolling with it, and it's making noise. You know, even in the Zhu Horn press conference, all they talked about was me. So it just shows how boring, you know, some other fighters are. But, you know, when it comes down to the real crunch, for me, I'll always have time for my supporters. I don't even like saying fans, it's supporters.
Yeah.
You know, people, kids, you know, whoever gives me the time of day, I'll always make time for them. And I'm always doing giveaways and just trying to make a little difference in the world and in the sport. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Because I can't do this forever. You know,
No,
I've
of
got
course.
another maybe 5-10 years max, and then that's it. So, I'll pass the torch, and someone else. And I just want to leave back that legacy where what I did made a difference.
Yeah. And speaking of legacies, you've had arguably two of the biggest fights in the last few years. I mean, one of the fights was probably the best fight this country's seen for a long time against Jeff Horn.
The robbery.
Yeah, the robbery.
Yeah.
But I mean, is the trilogy, is that a realistic option for you? And is that something you'd push for to go again against?
Of course. Look, Jeff's mentioned that I'm too hard of a fight. The 2 wars he had with me ended his career, and he's said that in front of a camera. So yeah, he had I think 2-3 surgeries, plastic surgeries with his eye and stuff after our fight. So I did a lot of damage to him, those 2 fights. But money talks, and not for me, but for him. He's made his money. So if he gets an offer where it's worth fighting for, I'm sure he'll come out and fight for it. But like he's mentioned, he said, I'm just enjoying time with my family now, my kids. I think he's got 2 daughters. So he's just enjoying life with his girls and just, seeing how life flows. But like I said, if a good offer comes, I'm sure he'll come back. You can't just walk away from the sport on a loss.
No way.
What I mean? So he'll get the itch sooner or later, and he's not going to fight an up-and-comer because there's a potential loss there. Yeah. So he'll make the most money in a trilogy because everyone wants to see that. Or he'll try his luck overseas with a world-class opponent, which I don't believe he's got enough in him.
Yeah, and for the listeners that haven't sort of come across that Jeff Horn, obviously one of the bigger fighters in this country, that took down the great Manny Pacquiao many years ago, and more recently had some of the biggest fights you'll see against Michael Zerafa, which they're 1-1 split on sort of wins there. So we're looking for that third fight. It's pretty exciting to see where the next few fights could go for you, and actually the sport of boxing in this country, because I feel like the lightweight division across the globe is putting some people on notice of like, holy shit, boxing's awesome. Watching things like Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Tank Garcia, and then now in Australia we're starting to be like, who are our fighters? And obviously yourself, Jeff Horn, is a fight we want to see, but the Tim Zhu one, as we've mentioned. And probably from the outside, people don't really see this as like a big decision, but for a fighter, it's a big decision when you've been tied to a specific coach or a training environment for a long time, and you've kind of modernized that and changed it for the betterment of your career. And now you've moved into the Ellis Boxing Gym. Obviously, the famous world champion Lester Ellis and his sons have opened up an environment down there in Melbourne. I guess, can you speak us through what that transition's been like for you as a fighter?
Yeah, transition's been good. I'm a kind of fighter that likes to always grow. I don't like to settle, and I don't like saying the word jumping from gym to gym, but I like adapting to other environments, and I get very mentally drained if I'm just doing the same things over and over. So I like to change my environment, meet new people, and just learn different things. But coming to the Ellis's was great. They're a young bunch of people, so we mentally connect. And the training's been good. Like I said, I've been in camp for 14 months, and I've had a real long time to perfect everything. Yeah. And like I said, come March 13, I get to go out there and lay it all out and hopefully get the W. But the facilities there are unreal, and I like it. It's good. Everything's going to plan. I can't fault anything.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of the gym because they're doing some pretty cool and I think innovative stuff in the industry. But it's kind of weird to me in boxing, and I can't really think of another industry where it's like a beginner in boxing can go to the same gym as almost like a world champion, and you kind of allow that in boxing environments. Like
well, look, we don't. Yeah, exactly right. You can't walk into Mayweather's gym and you just see Mayweather there. And but they have this thing where everyone's equal, and that's what it should be all about.
Yeah.
But look, I don't train alongside with guys that have just walked in for their first session.
Right.
But I have my scheduled sessions with my team, and there's about 10 of us all involved, and we have separate times where we're secluded from the groups.
Right.
But I'll show my face in there on the days where there's big groups after my sessions, and try to get involved with everybody, meet new people, and but yeah, it's cool how they mix everyone together and everyone's equal at the gym. It's like a big family over there.
Yeah, it's unique, man. It's unique, definitely. And one of the things they're doing, which is kind of leading into my next question, which is a bit of a flip on the industry, is some of these super fights that are being developed around the world.
Don't get me going.
Yeah, and I feel like boxers have a bit of a stance on this because you obviously respect the industry more than everyone. And
yeah,
I mean, what do you make of these super fights globally with like Logan Paul, Mayweather?
As much as I want to, support the guys that are doing it. It's very hard to because, I can't wake up one week and say, you know what, call up one of the AFL teams and just say, hey, look, I've had enough of boxing, chuck me in the forward line. It doesn't work, you know what I mean? And they'd just laugh at me and say, mate, you're taking the piss, see you later. But these guys wake up one week and say, oh, I want to fight, and then they get matched up, have no experience, they're on mainstream TV and getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they go out there and diminish the sport. You know what I mean? When you got legitimate fighters like myself, Zoo, Horn, that are fighting world-class opponents, 12-rounders, and we're not getting half of what they're getting, it's very, very disappointing.
Frustrating, right?
Frustrating as hell. But I got no power. If I had the power, and look, I want to come out and make a bit of a stance to that because, it's wrong. It is wrong. And like I said, if I called up Melbourne Victory and they put me as a midfielder, mate, I can't argue the fact. But the fact that doesn't happen, it's just wrong.
Do you think it's going to stick because of the money it's generating? Some of those, I mean, the two YouTubers that fought KSI and Logan Paul.
Well, look, in their defense, in those two guys' defenses, like at least they're calling out legitimate fighters.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not fighters themselves, but they're not fighting guys that aren't fighters as well. At least they're saying, you know what, I'm a bit of a thug. I want to fight Mayweather. Yeah, you're going to get whooped, but at least he's calling out, legitimate fighters. You got guys in Australia that are doing these shows, and it's pathetic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and it's a shame, but, I support it because some of the guys that participate are my friends.
Yeah.
And I wish them all the best in their careers. But when you look at the hindsight of the actual sport, it doesn't look good.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I would hope that never happens is those fights overtake the size of the real fights. Because,
well, that's what's happening. You're seeing like you said, the Logan Pauls and all that, but they're huge. They've got a huge following. So, but you got KSI, who I've done work with previously. I had a podcast and stuff. Yeah, so
no way.
Yeah, he was checking me. He called me up, and we had a podcast and stuff. And he was looking at my box rec, and we're talking about fights. And when he comes down to Australia, we're going to link up. So that's going to be pretty cool.
Dope, bro.
But at least they got a huge following. You know what I mean? And they both know that they're not legitimate fighters. They're just like, let's put on a show on an undercard somewhere. But like I mentioned, there's other fighters, there's other celebrities out there that are like, Barry Hall, for example, and Paul Gallen. I mean, these guys aren't legitimate fighters, but they're getting pay-per-view mainstream.
It's unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. But unfortunately, I don't have the power to change that. I just got to accept it. But it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, fair. So if we take it back, I guess, to you when you sort of got yourself started into boxing, I mean, what was one of the main reasons that got you gravitated towards the ring and fighting as sort of to build that to an actual career?
So when I was a little kid, I actually said to my mum, I was about 7 years old, and I said, I'm going to quit school, quit everything. I don't want to go to school. Sorry, I wasn't at school at that point. I said, I want to be a world champion. And obviously my mum's like, yeah. And I literally just never lost faith. I have the same vision I had at 7 years old. I still have that same vision now, and it's so weird. I always say to friends and stuff, I wish you could see what I mean by like that same vision. It's crazy. And even when I'm walking around the house, I still replay it and visualize and do the MC call out, and the new and it's just weird. But I just knew I could mix it with the best in the world, and knowing I could have that one fight and change my family, my friends, and lives motivates me. And it's always, like I said, it's always about giving back. I've never been interested in being a millionaire and having hundreds of millions of dollars. That's not what it's about. It's about setting a goal, chasing it, and like I said, when I eventually get married and have kids and stuff, I don't want them to go through the same struggle I went through. It's been a hard journey, and I never want that for my family.
100%.
And just keep pushing. Like I said, I don't fight for me, and I always say this. I died years ago, and there's other ways to make money. I mean, I could literally clean toilets if I wanted to make money. It's not about that. It's that legacy. Michael Zerafa, what did Michael Zerafa leave behind? And it's all about legacy for me. Yeah. And I'm halfway there. Everyone that says my name, Michael Zerafa, he's fought everybody.
Yeah.
He never shies away from a fight. He's just a tough fighter. He never backs down, and that's a big thing for me. And I idolise Miguel Cotto, who had the same
great
same
fighter.
Legacy. Yeah, and I got the chance to spar him and was in training camp with him at Wildcards. So I was wrapped.
That's insane.
Yeah,
So from what you mentioned there as a kid, like visualization and kind of seeing your dreams as like clear as anything. I mean, is visualization, manifestations, that stuff just inbuilt in your...
Huge. I'm driving a Toyota 86 around the city. It's a Ferrari. I'm dancing around in the boxing gym at Team Alice. I'm at the MGM. You know, I'm having a shower and I've got people here that can back me up, and you know, I've got Michael Buffer reading out the announcement, and the I'm the new world champion. You know, and I always visualize. I'm always visualizing, and boxing is the hardest sport. It's the only sport that doesn't love you back. You know, and mentally it breaks you. It's the only sport that can break you, and you know, there's a lot of before there's any ups, there's so many downs, and people only see, you know, what's on TV and what's portrayed in the media, but no one sees what goes on behind the scenes. You know what I mean? All the no's that you got, all the you know, setbacks you got. It's a whole bunch of things. Before you get one yes, there's 1,000 no's, and no one sees that. And I wake up every morning and say, I'm over this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. And whilst I'm driving to the gym, you know what I mean? So you question yourself 24/7. Do I really want to do this? But then you smile while you're saying it, because, you know, it is. Yeah. And for me, visualization's just been such a big part of my career. And I think I've just always been born like that. I don't know. Just even when I was a little kid, like, I've always wanted it. You know, if you were walking around, you had the freshest kicks, you know, I needed to have them. If, you know, someone had the latest Adidas jacket, I needed to have it. Like, that's just how I've always been. And someone's got my world title belt and I need to have it. Yeah. So I always just play that in my head, and that's why I think I've been successful. Yeah,
it's pretty cool, man. I mean, I'm a big one on like manifestation and visualization, even just talking things into existence. Yeah. I mean, the perfect example of that is Conor McGregor, when he was like running through that period of like Mystic Mac and like saying, I'm going to knock this person out there and that. And like when you truly believe it, stuff happens. And I think when you come back to just you sort of going through your junior boxing career, obviously you wouldn't have been invincible. I mean, as you said, you may not have the most talent, but you're going to work the hardest.
That's why I truly believe hard work beats talent. I know there's a lot of like sayings and cliche, this and that, but it really works, you know, because not everyone can do certain things. Not everyone's gifted. You know what I mean? Some people can run, some people can't run, some people can swim. So I can't swim. So, you know, there's certain things that I've had to just like learn to do. And being hard work, if someone said, give me 10, you know, I would always do 11, 12, because in my head it's in the bank. Yeah. And I'm a big believer it's in the bank. And then when it comes time to spending it, you've got more cash. And it's always worked for me. And no matter what, you know, sometimes you can rock up to a fight or an event and give 200% and it still doesn't go your way. It's just, that's life. Yeah. And that's just the way the world, you know, is built, really. And but yeah, like I said, just hard work. You know, I always push one extra rep, one extra mile, one extra, you know, anything. So
I think one thing that I admire about boxers, and it's in somewhat, I've spoken of this before to some previous fighters on this show, like it's a bit of a metaphor for life, like that losing in the ring and then getting back in, and that in itself being a victory, or just for some people, just getting in the ring. I mean, for you, having some losses and tough experiences as a kid, but like still turning up, getting in the ring, going through all those incredible fights you've had. I mean, I want to talk to the Kell Brooks one as well, because that was one that I watched. Yeah. Like, do you think it's powerful to experience some losses in boxing as a kid and then find that sort of on your feet and get back into it?
100%. Like there needs to be setbacks in life, no matter what. Like, it could be in a training session. I have them all the time. You know, yesterday, a perfect example. I wasn't as sharp. I had a sparring session on Sunday, and then I was immaculate. I looked the best I've ever looked. And then yesterday I had a sparring session and everything went wrong. And, you know, I'm 2 weeks into my fight. It's like, you know, it starts playing on your head, but you can't dwell on it. You know what I mean? There needs to be, I don't feel it's a loss. It's a learning curve. And it's either win or you learn. And a lot of people say that. And I just try to break down where I went wrong. And, you know, I'm one of those people that the smallest things in the world can tick me off. And I've got a strange brain, the way it works. But, yeah, like I could be at a red light for too long and it will upset my whole day.
Really?
And it's the smallest things. I could get a bad haircut and, you know, everyone around me is going to hear about it.
But you'll go 12 rounds with Kell Brooks.
But I'll go 12 rounds. It's
How does that work, man?
Yeah, it's trying to switch. Your brain will always go on and off. Am I good enough? You know, your brain's programmed, and I learned this from a psychologist, you know. Your brain is programmed to be negative. Yeah. It's in all of us. Yeah. And, you know, survival. That's where, like, even if you go anywhere, like, it's programmed to be negative, you know. It's just it's your body protecting itself. And I feel like that's where you do the biggest growing. And that separates the difference between good and great. You know, in any sport is taking that bad experience, whether it be a loss or a bad training session or, you know, why didn't I get picked or whatever it may be, and work on why, you know, and don't feel sorry for yourself. Just break it down and find the main source of what went wrong. For me, it could be at a red light. I could have a bad training session because I've waited too long at a red light, or, you know, a sound of a horn behind me in a car. You know, if I shouldn't be saying this, but look at my phone and the you know, it's green light and the car behind me toots the horn. That's upset me, you know, and it's just breaking it down.
The difference is, though, is that you probably can get out of the car and just give one look at them and then they'll drive right away. Whereas...
I've had a few of those with road rage.
They're like a shit wrong person.
Yeah. No, I've had a few of those.
I bet.
They've come up to the side of my window and tried to say something. They're like, "Oh, it's Zerafa."
Yeah, you picked the wrong car, brother.
Yeah. But look, you know, it's all about just learning and finding out where the difference between good and great and world champions and the average is 1%. And that's why they always, you know, reiterate 1%ers, because the difference isn't much. And I've been all around the world and fought and trained and sparred with the best in the world. You know, Manny Pacquiao's gym with, like I mentioned, Miguel Cotto, you know, Provodnikov and Shane Mosley Jr. and some big names. And there's not much difference. It's just that they know how to turn it on and off, that 1%. And they won't let, even if something does upset them or throw them off, how to bring it back, you know, separate their problems, you know, and not like people say, like, if I have a problem at work, leaving it at work, you know, and that's the difference. Yeah. Just separating your problem.
Man, I think that's a diamond what you said, win or learn.
Win or learn.
I mean, because it's you can lose every day, or you can learn every day.
100%, yeah. And it's just the way you take it, you know what I mean? You can win every day or learn every day, and that's, the way you look at it is up to you.
Yeah. Yeah, so you mentioned some of those fighters and gyms that you've been to and some people you've sparred. Do you have any sort of fighters that you idolize growing up, or certain styles that you're like?
For me, I'm a huge fan of Miguel Cotto. Yeah. I nearly passed out when I walked in the gym and you know, he was wrapping up and told me I was going to spar. And for me, that was probably the highlight of my career. You know,
no way.
He's someone I look up to because he's same as me, you know, he doesn't back away from a fight. He wants to fight everybody. And he's been in there with the best, and he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's a family man. And he doesn't care. He just wants to leave that legacy behind. And, you know, he's a Hall of Famer now, and I'm, you know, grateful. And I thank God I got to share the ring and meet him.
That's insane.
And it was phenomenal. And he said to me, he goes, "This kid's going to be a world champion," you know. So I've had some great experiences in life, and some things you know, people would never get to see. So I'm very, very grateful.
Man, so when you're around some of these guys and these fighters and those big fights that you've had, and you get that praise, and for instance the Kell Brooks fight where it's world championship quality fight, he's a former world champion. You went to his hometown. And you said the first round was like a bit of a roller coaster, but it actually worked in your favor, in my opinion, because you won more praise because of how you responded to that first round.
Well, mate, I remember walking out, and they were the most feral crowd I've ever had in my life. I was not very liked.
So what year was this fight? That was
This was 2 years ago.
2018?
Or 2018, end of 2018, December, yeah. Yeah. And I remember walking out, you know, 20,000 plus people. And it was basically, I only had 4 people that come up with me and my team that were on my side, and then I had the rest that were pretty much cursing me. And I got in the ring. Like I said, I had Michael Buff as my ring announcer. I had all these famous people and actors and other fighters and promoters all in the venue. And then Kell Brooks walked out, and again, someone who I've idolized, looked up to, former IBF world champion, been in there with the best, beaten the best. So I got a little bit of stage fright towards seconds before that bell rang. And you know, the first round was probably, I remember going back after the first round, and you know, I said, "Stuff this." And you know, then again, I found that switch, and I had to flick it. It was either lose or learn how to, you know, to bounce back. And that was the decision I had to make. And I said, you know what, he's just a man with 2 arms and a head, and he bleeds red. And I said, you know, so there's no difference between him and I. It's just who wants it more. And, you know, unfortunately, I started too slow, and I was playing catch up. But like I said, I had great things come out of that fight. After the fight, he come up to me and said, "Mate, you had us worried a few times. I hit him with some big shots and had him wobbled a few times." And he said, "Mate, at 26, I wasn't fighting Kell Brooks." He said, "Mate, you got a huge career."
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to how bad do you want it.
Yeah.
It's it's all in the mind.
Yeah.
And the brain is the strongest thing in the world, and a lot of people need to understand how to correlate with.
Yeah, work with it, right?
Work with it, yeah.
Yeah, because that fight was obviously in his hometown in the UK. Matchroom Boxing, Eddie Hearn, the famous promoter, was sitting ringside, and like you won yourself so much applause there and credit. But are those the type of fights that eventually Michael Zerafa wants to go out again? And
100%.
Yeah.
I'll fight anybody. I'll
Yeah.
never take a backward step. Yeah, my team ring me, they say, "Mick, we're fighting." I say, "Yeah, what's the date?" I don't even ask who it is.
Yeah.
Because like I said earlier, whether you're in front of me, the world champion's in front of me, Mundine's in front of me, I have the same job. It's like driving. If you're worrying about what everybody else is doing, you do your heading. You just get in the car and you just worry. You just focus on yourself.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing. You're in control. And that's what I do when I fight. I just switch on. I say, "Mick, before I go out there, I just say a few words to myself. This is it now.
Yeah.
And I take that last breath before the bell. And I leave it in God's hands.
Yeah, man.
I just do me, and it's worked. It's working, but you can't always be on top. There's what goes up must come down, and there's always fresh young guys, fresh hungry kids that look up to me, and they'll probably do the same to me one day, like I'm doing to Mundine. Like I idolized him as a kid. Now I'm getting the shot to take over, pass the torch, and lead the way, and I'm sure there's a lot of kids. I know there's a lot of kids that are doing the same now, and
100%.
I've had guys say, "Man, I'm a huge fan, and I'll fight you one day," and they're doing it to me now. So it's just a big circle, and it's going around, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. And like I said, I thank God, and I just enjoy what I do.
Right. Has there been a defining fight or moment in or outside the ring that for you has made you, I guess, as tough as who you are and as focused as who you are, or have you kind of always just been like this?
I've always been like that. I'm just super competitive. Whether I'm at an arcade with a friend or I'm playing marbles or doing something, I'm just super competitive. Perfect example today, I was at the track doing a photo shoot, and we're just taking photos, but I'm sitting there trying to sprint off and beat these guys. Like, mate, we're not even racing. I just have to be the best at anything I do.
Yeah.
And if I'm shooting hoops for someone, I have to win. If I'm, like I said, anything I do, and I get very salty if I lose. But again, you just learn why you lost and how that person beat you.
Yeah.
And it might happen once, twice, but eventually you grow. And as long as you grow each time, that's moving forward. You don't have to move forward quickly.
Yeah.
But like I said, you walk forward. You don't drive in reverse. Everything you do is you're moving forward. And there's a time for everything.
Yeah.
And my time's coming.
Man, if I was playing you in any sort of form of game, I think I'd let you win.
Yeah, mate, I'll get.
Or if I did win, I'd keep it on the hush until you're out the room.
You'll know about it. Trust me. I'm very.
You
salty.
might knock me out.
I'm a bad person to be around. I'm a bit of a sook, and I just it's just always been, even as a little kid with my cousins and my older sister, and no matter what I did, I had to, be the best. Or even if my brother got a bigger schnitzel, I'd ask why. You know what I mean?
I love that.
I'd count my P's. I'd always have to have more and be, the best at anything I did. And it's a bad trait, I guess, because, but I guess that's why I'm so successful.
Yeah,
I just always
100%.
want better. If I'm running on the track and I'm doing a 4-minute K, in my head I'm like, I can do better. I can always do better. And I just want to just see how far I can go with it all.
Just quickly, do you run 4-minute Ks?
Yeah. Less as well, some. Yeah.
That is rapid.
Yeah. I'll tell her all the time. She doesn't believe me.
That's rapid, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a boxer.
Is that normal for a boxer? I mean, I don't know, but I mean, under sub 4 minutes.
It's fast, yeah. Right. I'll do that for 10, 12K.
If anyone, what?
Yeah, let's go, yeah.
What?
Can you hear me when I talk to this?
Yeah, maybe we should get...
You should have told me that. I could have been bagging well.
No, I think not all the time.
Oh,
no, but seriously, fuck, that's lightning quick.
Yeah, I know.
So what, you're going to prep for some sort of Tokyo or post-boxing, man?
Nah, man, no way. I hate running. I mean, I like it because it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And I can eat more.
Yeah.
But I run to eat.
Yeah.
I got a massive sweet tooth.
Oh, do you?
Oh, man, ridiculous. That's what my diet can you still hear me? Yeah. This is what my diet consists of.
Yeah.
is just sugar. It's fucked.
That's his weakness.
Oh man.
If I'm fighting you, I'm going to leave the snakes around the ring.
The
It
worst.
might
But I
make
do
you
it
have to
like,
lose my
you know,
weight.
I do it. I do it wrong.
Yeah, it's just how it is.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their weaknesses.
There's a few fighters that get away with it. You know, there's the basketball Lamar Odom.
Yeah.
He's on a high sugar diet. That's what he lives off too.
Wow.
Long term, it's not good.
Yeah.
But it always, because you're pushing your body so hard, and then eating so clean, for me anyway, it breaks. I'm weak minded like that, but my body will push and run 4-minute Ks and kill itself, because then I know I can go home, watch a movie, and eat a bag of M&Ms and kind of reward the body. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, my body knows I'm going to push this hard because I know I'm going to get this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can eat more and do things.
So speaking of that, because like I catch you're pretty tunnel visioned on your fight with Mundine, and whoever's in front of you after that, you're going to be tunnel visioned on that. But you also mentioned like 5-10 years, you can't fight forever, and
Correct.
there is a life outside of boxing. I mean, do you have a perspective of what you want to do outside of the ring, like how you balance fighting with something else now as you sort of...
Look, I've always, I know not many people know this, but I want to open up a barbershop.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so I've got a big interest in it, and I cut hair now, and but I want to make it like a real dope place, where like, in the waiting room there's, flat screens, Xbox, PlayStations, pool tables, get a little barista in there, and just make it like where the guys go after work, and it's just the boys, just hang out, they get their stuff done, and just make it a really awesome place, you know what I mean? So, or there's also open up a recovery center, with ice baths and stuff. I can't see myself opening up a gym, and it's not really me, I just more recovery centers, and I don't know. I want to kind of.
Why is that? Is that because you don't feel there's much like that, or you just?
I don't want to be those guys that like, oh, I'm a world champion, or I've done boxing, or I didn't get to where I want to get to, so I'll try to train somebody. You know what I mean? It's for me. I'm not a trainer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I can tell someone, I can hold pads for someone and whatnot, but for me to guide someone to the top, because there's a lot of things I do wrong, and I mentioned my diet and this and that, but it works for me. But I don't know. I feel like once I hang my gloves up, I'm done. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that fighter that still hangs around the sport because they can, because they got a name. You know what I mean? That's why my name, the legacy for me is I make the name for myself, and I don't want to chase it with another athlete or, with being the best trainer. I want to be a world champion and retire. I'm the world champion. Michael Zerafa did it all. The road to glory. You know what I mean? Not, he's kind of didn't make it or whatnot, and now he's going to open up a gym and he's just training kids. And
it's
ugly.
It's not you, right?
It's an ugly scene. For me, like I said, I want to just completely career change or do like a recovery center, like Elite, where I do my strength and conditioning. It's an awesome little place there. Just have a little studio, not a gym.
Yeah.
And just zone out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just, have the discussions about my career, not trying to live my dream through someone else.
Yeah.
If that's.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think that's good. I mean, I always like, for me, relating to you in that situation, I wanted to do something completely different to soccer.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Because I was like, well, I don't want to be defined by that forever. Like, there's other things I want to do.
That's what I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I haven't done a lot of things. I've had a hard upbringing, a very, very tough life, and I've missed out on so much. I didn't really go to school. I missed out on a lot of things. Yeah. And I want to do that afterwards. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, people say to me, oh, why are you going on holiday? Well, I'm not a world champion yet, so why am I going to reward myself? Yeah. And I'll do all that once I'm done. Hopefully I'll have a family by then, and I want to travel with them. Yeah. And do the things I missed out on when I was a kid with them. You know what I mean? And I don't drink alcohol. I've never done drugs. I've never been into that scene, going out clubbing and stuff like that. So, which I'm glad. I'm grateful. But I love nature. I love just doing all that stuff. Just things I missed out on as a kid.
Man, there's another side to the Michael Zerafa.
Yeah.
That's right. Haymakers,
talk about nature, it's all happening.
Yeah, shit.
I'm going to start crying.
Mate. Yeah. Hold the tears. No, seriously, so speaking of hanging up gloves, and I'm not referencing you here, but with Anthony Mundine, I mean, let's go back to this fight, because they're obviously coming up in 2 weeks. I mean, do you have a prediction? Do you sort of set predictions for yourself of what you want to do, or you just go in there and you let the top?
Look, a lot of fighters have game plans, and they watch and study their fighters, but I've never really done that. I wing it, and that's what you can't really have a plan in something you don't know. Yeah. I don't know how he's going to come out. I don't know what he's going to throw. I don't know his intentions in his head. I don't know. Is it a payday to him? I don't know what he's thinking. And again, it goes back to you just focus on yourself like driving. And I go out there, just basically wing it. And look, I think I'll stop him. I hope I stop him. But I just take it round by round. We've got 12 rounds. And I literally just assess round by round. Yep. I never think, in round 2, I never think about round 7. Even in round 1, even in the time, if it's a minute 20 in, I'm not thinking about 2 minutes 20. I'm a minute 20 in. I can't think ahead. And because in boxing, like you know the sport, it can change in seconds.
Yeah.
You think it's a jab, it's a right hand, or you think it's an uppercut and it's a hook. It's all over. So, like I said, I just go out there and just tread carefully and just be smart.
Yeah.
Be smart. Bring my boxing IQ in.
Can't wait to watch it, man. For those listening, March 13th, Michael Zerafa, Anthony Mundine out at Bendigo. Get your money on the pretty boy, man. He's gonna come flying, no doubt. It's gonna be a great fight, and obviously we've touched on in the show today some of the plans for the year, which could be even more grand for the sport of boxing in this country, man. So big thank you for you to coming on the show, man.
This is an awesome setup, man.
Yeah, it's
unreal on the Unlaced. They're doing great things, big things, and I look forward to be back, brother.
Yeah, man. Can't wait. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming back. Season 1's coming this year. We're coming back bigger and better. So keep tuning in, keep following, subscribe if you can. And March 13th, let's tune into this fight.